Failures that launched 5 stunning comebacks you never knew existed. It was the kind of headline that made your heart race. Could it really be true? 5 incredible failures that somehow turned into spectacular triumphs. The whispers and suspense echoed through the air like a storm brewing, waiting to unleash its fury. Each story wrapped in layers of mystery, teasing the edge of unbelievable. First, there was the tale of the coffee shop that failed to brew anything more than disappointment. Customers left with scowls, drinks cold before they even left the counter. But then, the grimy walls got a fresh coat of paint. An unexpected twist hit when a local artist took over, transforming the space entirely. The same shop, once destined for closure, now thrummed with creativity, everyone buzzing inside, laughter spilling out onto the sidewalk like coffee from a full cup. Then there was Helen, a girl once mocked for her wardrobe. She unearthed old clothes from the depths of her grandmother's attic, nothing but dusty relics of the past. Yet those clothes became her canvas. The rags turned to riches as she created a fashion line that skyrocketed, leaving the naysayers speechless. And let us not forget about the rock band that fell off the map quicker than they rose. Their disastrous debut left them broken and battered, wondering what went wrong. But in a twist of fate, a viral video resurfaced their forgotten songs. The world took notice, and suddenly they were not just back in the game but headlining sold-out shows across the country. Tension bubbled in the air, each comeback story igniting hope but with a thrum of unease. How could these transformations happen? What hidden factors lay behind each failure? People leaned closer, captivated by the roller coaster of triumph and tragedy. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. What if another story was lurking just below the surface? Was there a secret formula? A hidden ingredient that turned fails into fabulous? As the questions hung in the air, anticipation crackled like electricity. The next story begged to be told. What whirls of fate and fortune awaited? Could the next failure leave us stunned, waiting for a comeback we never saw coming? As the air hung thick with excitement, the next tale began to emerge from the shadows. It was the story of a tech startup that once dazzled investors but was now barely a memory. Nextech Innovations had everything: bright-eyed founders, promising prototypes, and groundbreaking ideas. But just a year after launching, they imploded. Catastrophic software issues plagued their flagship product, leading to disastrous reviews and a tidal wave of backlash. Investors fled, leaving the team scrambling in desperation, but this wasn't the end. Months later, deep in a dingy office scattered with outdated tech and takeout containers, the team huddled together. The disappointment wrapped around them like a heavy cloak. Yet one night, under flickering fluorescent lights, they decided enough was enough. Instead of drowning in despair, they rolled up their sleeves. They pored over customer feedback, identified what went wrong, and redoubled their efforts. The scene shifted. Coffee cups lined the tables as they crafted late-night solutions. Ideas sparked back to life. One of the co-founders, Ava, had an epiphany. What if we focused on simplicity, she suggested, her voice shaky but resolute. It was a game changer. They scrapped the original, bloated product and redesigned it from the ground up, with user experience as the centerpiece. Months turned into maddening weeks, but the effort bore fruit. When they finally launched the reimagined product, it was a hit. Critics were stunned at the transformation. The tech community that once mocked them now rallied around their resilience. Customers flooded in, restoring the faith that had been shattered. This comeback wasn't just a rebranding but a clinic in redemption. As excitement swirled around the tech world, whispers spread about how they'd achieved the turnaround. But even with soaring sails, questions lingered. What had truly propelled this transformation? Was there something deeper behind their rise from the ashes? Next came the story of a local musician named Lucas. A promising talent, he faced a crushing defeat when his debut album tanked spectacularly. Friends and fans turned away, leaving him alone on a deserted stage, the silence deafening. It was heartbreaking, the kind of pain that could break anyone. But rather than wallowing in the wreckage, Lucas took to the streets. He played in coffee shops, bars, and even busy intersections. Each performance was cathartic, pouring his soul into every note, but just when it seemed fate had turned its back on him, an unexpected encounter changed everything. A video recording of one of his street performances went viral overnight. Suddenly, he became the face of a movement, a voice for the unheard. The world wanted more of Lucas, and he was ready to give it. But as his newfound fame escalated, shadows crept back into the corners. What would happen when the spotlight faded? Would the struggles return? A tension built around him, leaving everyone on edge. As the crowd hung on every word, another story began to whisper through the hum of anticipation. What awaited in the next thrilling tale? A heart-stopping twist that left even the bravest questioning their courage. Just how far could one failure reach? What if the end of one story was merely the beginning of another? The clamor around Lucas reverberated like a wild heartbeat. Every performance brought a rush of joy, yet gnawing anxiety lingered in the back of his mind. The streets cheered for him, but deep down, he knew how fickle fame could be. Shadows danced at the edges, whispering about inevitable failure. What if it all faded too soon? One night, after a packed show, he bumped into an old friend, Sarah, at a dimly lit bar. She had once been his biggest supporter back when success seemed like a distant dream. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "I saw your video. Everyone's talking about you," she gushed, embracing him tightly, but just as quickly, her smile faltered. "You know how this industry is. It can be ruthless." Lucas chuckled nervously, nodding in agreement. He felt that tension twist in his gut. "Yeah, I'm just trying to ride the wave while it lasts." At home, the feeling of euphoria met his old musical insecurities. As he sat alone in his cluttered apartment, question marks swirled over his head. What would he do next? Would the pressure crush him like before? The accolades felt like heat. Wonderful, yet somehow suffocating. Late that night, he opened his laptop, peering at the comment threads beneath his viral video. It was a mix of love, admiration, and some harsh criticisms. One-hit wonder. Someone taunted. Wait till the real music comes out, another scoffed. The glimmer of doubt seeped in deeper than he wanted to admit that he needed to prove them wrong. With a fresh spark of determination, Lucas grabbed his guitar. Hours melted away as he poured his heart into a new song. This wouldn't just be another catchy tune, it would be raw. It would be real. At the break of dawn, he finished. It was electrifying, a piece of himself that he could share, imperfections and all, but just as hope soared, the world struck. Lucas received a call from his manager, John, shattering the fragile moment. "Lucas, we need to talk." "It's about the label," he said, voice strained. "What is it? Is something wrong?" Panic gripped him like ice. Not everyone is on board with your style. They're worried about your next move after the viral success. They want something more mainstream. We might need to reconsider your direction," John said. Lucas felt his heart drop. "I can't go back to fitting into a box that isn't me," he exclaimed, trembling with frustration. "It's not just that they're uncertain if you'll make it past this moment. There's pressure. We might need to make some tough decisions," John revealed. Questions swirled. What decisions? Would he have to compromise his authenticity for commercial success? What if he wanted nothing more than to stay true to himself and connect with his audience? The weight of the moment crashed over him like a thunderous wave. In that harsh silence, fear and resolve wrestled within him. Would he bend, or would he break? Digging deep, Lucas questioned everything: what his art meant to him, what he wanted to share with the world now that he'd tasted a piece of it. As he stared out the window, the city pulsed with morning life, oblivious to his internal storm. His next move could define him, for better or worse. Would he risk it all for his truth, or play it safe to retain the fleeting glory? Stay tuned, because as Lucas's story unfolds, the decisions he faces may just lead him down a dark path that no one could see coming. Lucas felt the walls of his apartment closing in. The vibrant sunrise felt muted, grim under the burden of his decision. He paced, heart racing, wrestling with demons that whispered of doubt. Could he be anything more than a fleeting moment? He grabbed his guitar, fingers trembling as they brushed the strings, but the melody eluded him. Inspiration evaporated like vapor on a cold morning. His phone buzzed, snapping him from the spiraling thoughts. It was Sarah, her message brightening the dim room. "Can we meet? I have something important to share." He hesitated. Was this another attempt to draw him back into the mainstream mold? But his heart craved connection, so he replied with a quick okay. They met at a nearby park, the air fragrant with fresh blooms. People jogged past, laughter danced on the breeze. Yet, all Lucas could focus on was Sarah's anxious expression. "What's up?" he asked, trying to maintain a calm facade. "Okay, so. I've been talking to a few people in music," she began, her voice lowering. "There's a chance for you to perform at this upcoming festival. It could be huge. But you need to be ready to wow everyone." "That's great, right?" he said, forcing a smile even as uncertainty knotted in his gut. "You need to bring something fresh. Something real. And the label, they want you to play it safe. If you're not careful, you'll lose this opportunity," she warned, her voice edged with concern. Lucas stared at the ground, feet rooted. "I can't keep changing who I am to please them, I know. But what if it could launch your career to the next level? What if it could give you the freedom to explore your own style later on?" Her words struck like lightning, illuminating a crossroads he hadn't considered. Navigating that fine line between authenticity and commercial success was risky. Yet, how could he turn down a chance that could redefine him? As he walked home, the weight of doubt pressed down harder than ever. The city moved around him, each sound an echo of his anxiety. Sirens blared, construction rattled, voices filled the cafes. Within that cacophony, a single thought pierced through: was this who he wanted to be? Trapped by fear of failure, without realizing, he found himself at an open mic, the warm lights shining bright on a small stage. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. He watched as local talent poured their hearts into songs, their authenticity magnetic. Courage surged through him. Before he knew it, he was standing at that microphone, his gaze sweeping the audience. The sound of his guitar strummed to life, releasing a melody he had yet to fully discover. Everything hung in balance, but was it enough? Would they see him for who he truly was? As he sang, vulnerability seeped from every note, his heart laid bare. A wave of fear washed over him. What if they didn't understand? What if the critics were right? The whispers of doubt clawed at him, threatening to drown out the music. The crowd swayed, some leaned forward, utterly entranced. Yet their approval did nothing to quell the hurricane of emotions roiling within him. Would he awaken the very ghosts of failure that haunted him? He struck the final chord, breathless, feeling a moment of ultimate clarity dance along the edge of uncertainty. The applause was thunderous, but his mind was already racing. A figure in the back of the room caught his attention, an unfamiliar face, their expression unreadable. What had he just set in motion? Was this the start of something monumental, or would it lead to a pitfall? And who was that stranger waiting for him? Because sometimes, the shadows bring unexpected light. The applause echoed in Lucas's ears, a thrilling rush that mixed with a stirring confusion. He stepped off the stage, heart still pounding, adrenaline coursing through him. But the noise faded into a distant hum as his gaze locked onto the figure lingering in the shadows. Uncertainty knotted in his stomach. What did that person want? As he moved through the crowd, a mix of congratulations and friendly pats on the back surrounded him. But his mind wasn't there, it was fixated on the stranger's gaze, intense, piercing. It felt almost like a challenge. "Hey, you were amazing." That was so raw. Sarah's voice broke through. He turned, forcing a smile, but it felt heavy. "Seriously, you nailed it. You have to keep that vibe for the festival," she enthused, oblivious to his inner turmoil. "Thanks," he mumbled, still glancing toward the back. "Did you see that person? Do you know them?" Sarah followed his gaze, but the figure was already melting into the crowd. "No, but you should go talk to them. Could be a scout or something. Don't let that chance slip." Her voice was a mix of encouragement and energy, but Lucas hesitated. Every instinct screamed to remain grounded. The world of music was slippery, prone to false promises. But a tiny spark of hope flickered within him, tempting him to chase this unknown opportunity. "Yeah, maybe," he replied, but doubt chased his enthusiasm away that he stepped outside for air. The night wrapped around him like a cool blanket, stars blinking above while the city bustled on. Thoughts swirled. The performance felt like a key, one that might unlock doors to the future or push him deeper into a maze. Yet, that stranger flickered in his mind, igniting curiosity and fear alike. Lost in thought, he didn't notice the footsteps approaching until a voice sliced through the night air. "You were incredible up there." Lucas froze, recognizing that tone, a mix of admiration and something darker, that he turned slowly to face the shadowy figure. The stranger stepped into the light, revealing a woman with striking features and an intense gaze that seemed to read his soul. "I'm Alina," she said, extending a hand, but her eyes held a weight that made him wary. "Lucas," he replied cautiously, shaking her hand, feeling a spark that sent a shiver down his spine. "I saw something special in your performance." "Something different," she continued, her expression softening slightly. "You don't want to play it safe, do you? You have potential to burn brighter than the rest." "Yeah," but his thoughts scrambled. How could she know what he wanted? "I can't just sell out for success." "Good," she replied, an enigmatic smile tugging at her lips. "You understand the risk. That's what could make you great." "What do you mean?" There was a challenge to her words that both thrilled and terrified him. "There's an underground circle that supports authentic talent. Forget the mainstream labels. I can connect you if you're ready to risk everything." The air around them felt electric. Lucas struggled to breathe, brain racing. Could this be the opportunity he turned away from? In a world where everyone seemed to conform to a cookie-cutter mold, here was someone recognizing his struggle, his fight against an oppressive music industry. "What's the catch?" he asked, suspicion lacing his tone. "No catch, just your chance to be real. It's not for the faint-hearted." A silence settled between them, thick with tension. Every moment made his choice feel more profound. Was the lure of freedom worth stepping off the cliff of safety? The weight of his dreams crushed him, but it also made him bold. "I need time to think," he finally said, though uncertainty knotted tightly in his gut. "Time is a luxury we both might not have. Think quick. I can't promise I'll be here tomorrow." With those parting words, Alina turned, disappearing back into the crowd. As mysterious as she'd arrived, Lucas stood alone under the night sky, heart racing, mind spinning. He had a decision to make: follow the safe path or leap into the unknown. As he walked back to his car, a question lingered in every shadow around him: was he ready to chase authenticity, no matter where it might lead? And perhaps more disturbingly, what if the shadows held secrets he had yet to uncover? Lucas sank into the driver's seat, the cool leather pressing against his skin as he stared blankly ahead. The music of the city wrapped around him, a backdrop to the turmoil swirling in his mind. Alina's words echoed relentlessly. "If you're ready to risk everything." What did that really mean? He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. He turned the key in the ignition and the engine roared to life, but the sound felt distant, like it belonged to someone else's life. Somewhere in those unknown depths, there was a thrill mixed with dread, a stark reminder that risk could lead to failure, or worse. What if he lost everything trying to grasp a fleeting dream? Pulling out onto the street, he navigated through familiar roads that suddenly felt alien. A buzz of uncertainty clung to him like a winter coat he couldn't shake off. With every turn, thoughts of Alina crept in. What was it about her? There was something magnetic in her presence, her intensity, but could he trust someone who had popped up out of nowhere? The streetlights flickered overhead as he drove through the city, but his heart was in a different place. Memories of past failures flitted through his mind, haunting him. Performances that had sunk like stones, auditions that had left him empty. Did he have what it took to join this underground circle, or was it just another ride on the roller coaster of disappointment? He rounded a corner and nearly bumped into a group loitering outside a bar. Their laughter rang out, bright and carefree, as if they had no worries in the world. He suddenly felt small and isolated, a lone figure watching life happen around him, as if standing on the outside of a giant glass bubble. He pulled into an empty parking spot and killed the engine, staring out into the night. The shadows swayed, teasing him with their obscurity. It was one thing to dream, but diving into the murky waters of Alina's world was something else entirely. What if tonight was not just an opportunity? What if it was a trap cloaked in a lure? Just then, his phone buzzed vigorously on the dashboard. He reached for it, expecting a text from Sarah, but it was an unsaved number. Intrigued, he swiped the screen and opened the message. Lucas, this is Alina. Sorry to intrude. I know you need time, but I can help you navigate things if you choose to explore this path. Meet me at the underground, midnight. You won't regret it. His heart raced, a visceral mix of excitement and fear. Why now? As if summoning the ghosts of his past failures, the clumsy moments of forgotten lyrics and wrong chords echoed louder than ever. How could he go from being a nobody to making waves? Alina's unwavering faith felt like an anchor, but could he really trust her? Lucas's finger hovered over the keyboard, wavering between choosing to respond or shoving the phone back down. But in that moment, something clicked inside him. If this was a risk, what better time to take it than now? With a deep breath, he replied, simply typing back, "What time?" As the seconds trickled past, the response came almost immediately. Midnight. Don't be late. This is your moment. A tremor ran through him as he stared out at the stillness of the night. He was standing at the edge of something profound, but was it a leap of faith or a misstep into oblivion? He knew the clock was now ticking. The question weighed heavier than ever: was he truly prepared for whatever awaited him at the underground? With resolve swelling inside him, he threw the car into gear and headed toward the unknown, the darkness swallowing him whole. But in that darkness, the pulse of possibility began to hum an unmistakable rhythm that dared him to dance with his demons. What awaited him at midnight? Would it offer liberation or lay bare new horrors? Lucas could feel the urgency pressing in. When he reached the underground, everything would change. And he still had that nagging question: would he find the courage to own his truth, or would he drown in the shadows that whispered fear? The city transformed around Lucas as he sped toward the underground, the neon lights burning brighter and sharper against the twilight. Each flicker sliced through his apprehension, cutting deep with every passing moment. An electric pulse thrummed beneath his skin. Was it fear or hope? The lines blurred as he gripped the wheel, knuckles white with tension. That he pulled up to the entrance, a narrow alleyway shadowed by looming buildings. His breath hitched. The words midnight echoed in his mind like a countdown. He stepped out of the car, the cool night air slicing through him. He felt exposed, like the world was a witness to everything he'd been hiding from. As he walked toward the door, his heart hammered in his chest, the rhythmic beat matching the pulse racing through his veins. Lucas pushed the door open and stepped inside. The underground was alive. Murmurs of music, laughter, and the heady aroma of sweat and ambition swirled around him. Daring flashes of color painted the dark space, but it felt more like a den of secrets than a club. The energy swirled like smoke, wrapping around him, both enticing and suffocating. As he navigated the crowd, his eyes searched for Alina. A knot of disappointment twisted in his stomach when he noticed she wasn't there yet. Instead, a diverse mix of faces flickered in and out of focus. Some danced with abandon, while others huddled in intense discussions, glances darting over shoulders like whispers of conspiracies. He caught snippets of conversations, dreams, betrayals, ambitions laid bare. Why was he here? What was the significance of it all? "Hey, you okay?" A voice broke through the haze, pulling him back to reality. A girl with vibrant pink hair and a piercing gaze stood before him. Her name tag read Maya. "Yeah, just it's a lot," Lucas admitted, his pulse still racing. "Trust me, it's only going to get more intense from here. You've got that look fresh meat ready for the slaughter." She smirked, but her eyes shone with a hint of sincerity. "What does that mean?" he asked, unease creeping in. "It means you should keep your eyes peeled. The people here. They're chasing something but not always the right thing." Her gaze flickered behind him. Turning, Lucas spotted a small stage at the far side of the room, a spotlight illuminating it just long enough to catch his breath. The murmurs of the crowd hushed as a figure stepped into the light, a woman dressed in a shimmering outfit, exuding confidence. Her presence radiated like a lighthouse, guiding lost souls to safety or peril. "Let us see if this guy has what it takes," she boomed, scanning the audience. Lucas felt frozen in place, an invisible weight pressing down on him. This was it, this was what Alina had meant. It wasn't just an opportunity, it was a crucible, a test of his very soul. Just as hope surged within him, the crowd erupted in raucous applause, drowning out the inner turmoil. He knew someone was about to take their chance. The closer they got, the more he felt the chill of reality sink in. What if he faltered? What if he drowned in the expectations of a crowd hungry for validation and judgment? Before he could ground himself, the spotlight drifted again. His breath caught as he turned back toward Maya, but she had vanished into the throng. Panic flared, everything felt off-kilter, chaotic. A whisper of doubt washed over him. Did Alina even plan on showing up? Then, amidst the cacophony, his phone buzzed again. He could hardly believe it. A message from Alina appeared on the screen. "Lucas, I'm on my way. Just remember, when you step into the spotlight, it's not just your voice that matters. Trust your instincts. Everything depends on it." His heart thudded heavily, battling against the current of doubt swirling inside him. What did she mean by that? "Trust my instincts." As he turned back to the crowd, the woman on stage was waving to signal the next performer. Was that person going to soar, or crash? Either way, Lucas knew he was standing on the precipice, teetering between lifting off and falling into darkness, and then it hit him: this wasn't just about the performance. This was about himself. What if he was never meant to leave that shadowed part of his life? He felt the pull of the underground, a siren's song that dared him to shed the chains of his past failures and reclaim the moment that called to him. But would he embrace it, or run from the demons lurking just behind the stage? Lucas took a deep breath and prepared for the unknown, because the next moment could change everything. The spotlight flickered, and Lucas flinched, an electric jolt of fear shooting through him. Voices around him faded to a distant murmur. He was caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. What did Alina really mean? Was she just trying to reassure him, or did she know something deeper? He could see the next performer stepping forward, a young man with wild hair and an eager grin. The crowd howled in encouragement, and Lucas's heart sank. What if he bombed? He felt like he was standing on a cliff, peering over the edge into a darkness that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Maya's warning echoed in his mind. Keep your eyes peeled. The thrill was palpable as the young man began his act, and Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that he was witnessing more than just a performance. There was desperation in the air, a hunger for more than just applause. Then the young man's act took a turn. He stumbled, his voice cracking, and the crowd's booing emerged like a sharp knife slicing through the excitement. Panic washed over Lucas as he recognized the look of utter humiliation on the performer's face. His heart thudded in his chest, not just for the guy on stage, but for himself. What if that were him a moment from now? The crowd's energy shifted, disappointment spilling over like a wave. The performer retreated, his gait faltering. Lucas could feel their judgment hanging like a noose in the air. An icy chill crept through him when he realized how easily the dreams of many could shatter against the cruel expectations of this place. Suddenly, the spotlight swung toward him again. His heart leapt into his throat as if it wanted to bolt from his chest. Was he next? He scanned the crowd for any sign of Alina, desperation clawing at him as he hoped for her presence to anchor him. Then, in the din of voices, he saw a familiar figure weaving through the mass of bodies. Alina. Relief flooded him, but it was short-lived. He barely had time to cherish the moment before she was swallowed by the throng again. Lucas. Her voice cut through the chaos, and he turned to see her standing just a few feet away, her face a canvas of determination. You need to get ready. It's your turn. His stomach dropped. The surrounding noise faded into a low hum as he stared at her. Alina seemed to shimmer under the club lights, her aura casting a spell of courage that tugged at the tangled thread of his uncertainty. What if I fail? He grappled with the words, the reality of the situation looming larger than life. Sweat beaded on his forehead. You won T. Just remember, trust your instincts. Her gaze held his, steady and fierce, and for a moment, he felt the weight of all the crowd's expectations lift, replaced by her unwavering belief in him. But the doubt crept back in like an unwelcome visitor. What if trust meant nothing? The voices inside his head screamed, warning him of failure, of being forgotten in the heavy darkness of the underground. The host's voice screamed from the stage, a dramatic flare accompanying the announcement. And next, we have Lucas. Come on up. Panic surged once more, his heart raced like a runaway train as he stepped forward, every step feeling heavier than the last. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Would he soar among the stars, or would he too crumble under the spotlight? Gripping the edge of the stage, he peered down. The seething crowd loomed below like a mass of restless shadows. He felt small, like a leaf caught in a storm. But then he remembered Alina's words. A deep breath. He was ready, no, not just ready, he needed this. This moment could shatter his past or pave a path to freedom. And suddenly, as if the universe aligned, he felt a flicker of something burning within him, something he couldn't quite define. Then, the moment came. The audience leaned in closer, waiting for the next wave of energy. Lucas stepped into the light, but just as his heart began to rise, a murmur spread through the crowd, growing louder and more intense. Who does he think he is? Someone hissed, their gaze piercing through him as if they could see his very soul. In that heartbeat, doubt gripped his throat. The cruel words echoed around him, blending with the thumping bass of the music. His moment had arrived, but the shadows of the past clawed at his heels, and then, the lights dimmed again, pulling him back into darkness. What would he do next? Would he let the fear consume him, or fight back with everything he had? The choice loomed before him, and for the first time, it felt as if everything hinged on this very moment. The crowd's murmur thickened, turning into a storm of whispers that swirled around Lucas, each word a dagger aimed at his confidence. He stood under the weight of their judgment, feeling the icy grip of fear tightening around his chest. The spotlight was blinding, but it wasn't illuminating, no, it was showcasing every flaw, every vulnerability he had kept hidden. Who does he think he is? Someone sneered again, louder this time, the scorn cutting deep. As if jerking awake from a nightmare, he shook his head, determined not to let their words burrow into his mind. The darkness behind him felt suffocating, the safety net of the unknown more comforting than the reality before him. He was here for a reason. Alina's words rang like bells in his ears. Trust your instincts. But what if his instincts led him down a path of humiliation? What if he flubbed his lines, or worse, couldn't he even remember what he was supposed to do? The crowd's disapproval was visceral, palpable. He could see some faces rolling their eyes, shoulders relaxing in preparation for another disappointing show. Lucas took a breath, each inhalation rooting him in this very place, the stage that could either crush him or elevate him. And then, like a flicker of light in his spiraling thoughts, he remembered the joy he felt when he first took the stage during rehearsals. The thrill of speaking his truth, his voice rising above the noise, echoing far beyond the walls of the underground. He opened his mouth, a bold gulp of air filling his lungs. His heart raced, but deep down, something shifted. This was not just a chance to perform, it was a chance to reclaim his power. "Hey!" he shouted, surprising himself with the volume. It sliced through the murmuring crowd, silencing the dissent for a moment. Eyes turned toward him, his voice pushed back against the tide of negativity. "I'm Lucas, and I'm here to share something real with you." A perplexed hush swept over the audience, a flicker of uncertainty crossing their faces. Lucas saw it, uncertainty was his ally. He took a step forward, using the thrill coursing through him, an exhilarating mix of fear and adrenaline to fuel his presence. He could turn this around. Finding his footing, he began to talk, sharing a story from his past, an experience bathed in vulnerability and raw emotion. He breathed life into his words, painting pictures with his stories, revealing his hopes, his failures, and ultimately, his desires. And gradually, he felt a change ripple through the crowd, like a soft breeze shifting the storm clouds. Eyes widened, shoulders straightened, bodies leaned closer. They were listening, not just hearing but feeling every word, every heartbeat echoing between them. The energy transformed, it was no longer just about him. With each word, he could see the skepticism wavering in the audience's expressions. He filled the void with honesty, using the stories to connect. Slowly, some began to nod, a few smiles broke through the tension. He was no longer just Lucas standing on stage, he was their mirror, a voice that spoke of resilience and hope, but before he could bask in the warmth of their acceptance, he caught a glimpse of Maya at the back, her expression twisted in thought. The realization hit him like a splash of cold water, something wasn't right. She wasn't sharing in the joy like the others. "What's wrong, Maya?" he stammered as a sense of dread clawed at his insides. The crowd was still captivated, but now he worried that he was looking at the unknown monster in front of him, and it had a story of its own. Lucas hesitated, the stakes were rising again, and the spotlight, though warm, now felt like a glaring interrogation light. What secrets were just beneath the surface that could shatter this moment? Was there something lurking in the shadows that could take this fragile recovery and flip it into chaos? He braced himself for the crowd's response, for Maya's answer, for whatever dark truth might emerge next. The tension in the air thickened like fog as Lucas stood, heart racing, eyes fixed on Maya. "What's wrong?" he repeated, trying to sound steady, but his voice cracked under the weight of uncertainty. The crowd's anticipation hung heavy, waiting. Maya stepped forward, her expression a mix of concern and urgency. "Lucas, it's not that I don't believe in you, but..." She trailed off, glancing around as if searching for words that wouldn't ignite the spark of chaos. "What?" he demanded, anxiety bubbling within him. "What are you trying to say?" She hesitated, then gathered her courage. "You're drawing them in, but they want more than this." Her eyes flashed toward the crowd, a silent plea for him to understand the gravity of her warning. "They want the spectacle, the drama. You need to go deep, don't just skim the surface. You need to give them everything." Lucas felt the air shift, the atmosphere teetering on the edge of a knife. She was right. They didn't just want a performance, they were hungry for authenticity, for the raw, messy truth. The kind he had fought so hard to keep hidden. But could he really let it all out? He took a shaky breath, that internal battle raging on. The spotlight now felt like a blazing sun, amplifying his every fear and desire. Could he summon the courage to bare his soul? "All right," he said, voice steadying, channeling what Alina had shown him. "Then let us do this." He leaned into the microphone, surrendering to the moment. "I've failed more times than I can count. Every time I tried to fit into what I thought I should be, I lost a bit of myself." His words were cleaving through the silence, the room still, drawing them into his world. I had a vision of what success looked like, but every time I reached for it, I fell flat instead. The truth spilled from him like a cascading river, each word a baptism of vulnerability. I thought I'd be forgotten, that I wouldn't matter, that I was a nobody. A throat cleared off stage. Fear gripped him momentarily, but he pressed on, sharing his fears, his insecurities, moments of embarrassment, and just like that, raw connection began to swirl between him and the audience. The crowd began to shift, he could see faces transforming, empathy dawning in their eyes. As he continued, memories of past failures rolled off his tongue. But you know what? Those failures taught me. I realized that the only true failure is not trying at all. The energy shifted again, the intensity of his performance lifting the tension, transforming it into something electric, invigorating. He was no longer standing alone on that stage, he was part of something larger, a collective experience uniting everyone in that packed room. Then, he caught Alina's eye as she pushed through the crowd, arriving just in time to witness the awakening. Her look of pride ignited something deep within. This moment was unfolding exactly as it should. Suddenly, a voice from the back called out, "Yeah. This is real." The crowd responded with cheers, feeling the raw honesty weave through the room like magic. Lucas felt a swell of courage, the need to keep going. "I'm not perfect," he declared, emotions spilling over. "I'm flawed, I'm still figuring things out, and that's fine. We're all in this together." He finished his tale with a plea that came from somewhere deep within. If you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever felt like giving up, just know you're not alone. Each stumble is a step forward. That's how we rise. The applause erupted, thunderous and heartfelt. Cheers echoed, filling every crevice of the underground. Relief washed over him, he felt like he'd just shed layers of doubt and fear. Then, the familiar face of the boy who had flopped before him now caught his eye. He was at the back, fist pumping, a beacon of support. The girl who'd mocked him moments before had joined the applause, possibly taken aback by the authenticity that had lit the room. Shouts of encouragement soared, filling him with warmth. "More! We want more!" they cried. Lucas stepped back from the mic, adrenaline rushing through him, mouth dry yet free. This wasn't just a performance, it was metamorphosis, a transformation born out of vulnerability. People were connecting, genuinely rooting for him. In that moment, he knew he was ready. He was ready to jump into the unknown and embrace whatever came next. As the crowd quieted again, Lucas felt a new calm wash over him. He looked out at all the faces, no longer thinking of them as a sea of judgment, but rather as a collective of dreamers. "I want us to rise together," he said, breathless but determined. "Let us support each other. And let us make every moment count." The roar of approval came again, a wave of energy surging through him. He had shared his truth, found his voice, and in doing so, had touched lives. That night at the underground wasn't the end, it was the beginning. A launch pad into whatever lay ahead. Whether he soared or stumbled, he knew now that he had people who believed in him. As he stepped off the stage, Alina's presence felt like a guiding light. "You were incredible," she beamed, her eyes shining. "I knew you had it in you." "Thanks for believing in me," Lucas replied, feeling grateful for the connection they shared. "Are you ready to embrace the chaos now?" she asked, that hint of mischief in her voice. "Can I hide behind this spotlight forever?" He joked, laughter spilling between them. "Only if you want to miss out on all the adventures." Lucas smiled, and together they stepped into the midnight air, ready for whatever came next. Because it was in this moment filled with hope and newfound purpose that he understood something profound: failure was just the beginning of a beautiful, wild journey. And for the first time, he felt truly free. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that'll take you on the wildest ride ever. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this incredible community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and your theories about this thrilling conclusion. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this energy and hope. This is the moment to show your support. You need to be part of this journey,